Hello everybody, and welcome to the E53 ANZCAR Cup of the Autoclub Speedway here at Fontana, California. I'm Carl Withy and I will be doing the commentary tonight with Matt Hunter on the cameras. And we're starting a little bit early tonight because there has been some major changes to the series and we want to cover those quickly. But before I do that, I just want to talk about one of our drivers, Will Barrington. Will Barrington has suffered from an issue with his lungs. He's had a collapsed lung, and he's had to get his lungs basically sort of fused. He's set up a GoFundMe, and you will find all the details for that in the links and channel details below. So please go and have a look at that. If you can help Will out, that would be wonderful. He's a fantastic guy and one of our regulars. So we'd like to get that out there. But now for the big news of the sport. We've actually had some really major changes for the cars this year. And the biggest change is in the... well, there's two big changes. One of them is for the engines. Now with the engines, they've been reduced to 550 horsepower from 750 horsepower. Now the reduction is on tracks that are over 1 mile long. So tracks like tonight, where we've got a 2 mile oval, they will have 550 horsepower instead of the 750 they normally would. The big change though is for the aero. There's going to be, they've changed the aero of the rear spoiler. Now the rear spoiler is much larger than before, so you should see on the car now that the car has got a bit of a bigger spoiler than it used to have, and this is going to create more downforce at the rear of the car and also create a bigger opening behind the car itself. So drafting is going to become a big thing in the sport now. Another big change is to the front of the car. With the front of the car, they've changed a lot of things. So the front aero has changed, the front splitter has been changed, and now it's going to cause a lot of difference for the front grip of the car. The front splitter is basically like the equivalent of the rear spoiler. It holds the car down and it sucks the car down onto the ground. There's also been changes with the brake ducts where they've made them slightly smaller, and that's going to create a little bit of a difference for the cars. There's not going to be as much aero going through the car and not as much wash coming off the cars as well. And also the radiator's been changed. So the radiator's been changed to make it so the cars have a little bit more cooling, so they will be able to follow each other a little bit closer. So what they're hoping for is basically to create a series that is much closer than it has been before. So hopefully tonight we're going to see that. Now the drivers, this is the first time the drivers have driven this car in this new configuration here at Fontana, California, and it's going to make them very different beasts to drive. They're a lot more grippy than they were before, and this is something a lot of drivers have found and they're not quite sure on how to take it. The car has a lot more grip than normal, and that's because it has much more downforce. The other thing is, because it has a lot less horsepower, it doesn't feel, there's not that kick, it's not quite as fast, but the cars are still very hard to drive. One really good thing about the aero changes is, though, if you do sort of start losing the car, it's going to be a bit easier to correct it as well. So expect to see a few drivers getting a bit loose, getting a bit sideways, and managing to correct their cars. This will really change things up for the drivers, and it has done quite a lot. Now we're expecting the race will be running for 100 laps tonight, so we're expecting the cars to last around about 35 to 40 laps for green running. The drivers have been saying they'll be able to manage about 35 to 40 laps in green. So, before we get to qualifying, we will just go through the scoring of the championship. We've had three races so far, and 3 different winners. Josh Micklemore, Michael Skurlock, and of course Matt Danson have all won a race this season. Let's see if we can get a third winner on the list. So the championship standings as they are right now. Josh Micklemore is first with 129 points. Second is Michael Skurlock with 122. Third is Dave Douglas with 115. Fourth is Jason Martin with 114. Fifth is Joshua Carroll-Walden with 112. Chris Purnell is third with 111. 7th place is Edward Foster with 110. 8th place is Matthew Clerk with 103. In 9th we have Daniel Stevens with 94 points, and then 10th is Darren McKenzie with 92. And I just want to make a shout out for 11th place, which is sort of joint between Riley Curtis and the aforementioned Matt Danson, one of the winners of this season. So Matt Danson is obviously going to want to try and get his way up the boards, but he has missed a race this season, so he has got a chance to basically get his way back up the field, because everybody will be able to just wipe a couple of races out. We'll get a couple of races where you cannot show up for, and you're still going to be eligible for championship. So Matt Danson's used one of those cards up already, so he's going to be trying to keep to the rest of the races this season, I imagine. So we're in for an interesting race tonight. The track temperature is actually quite low at the moment. Air temperature as it stands is around about 18 Celsius, which is quite cold, and it's very cloudy out there tonight. If there was rain in iRacing, I would say it's about to rain, in all honesty. Luckily we don't have that problem. It's very cloudy, very gloomy out there tonight, and the track temperature is very low at 22 Celsius. So this is going to mean the tyres are going to last a bit longer. The cars are going to enjoy it as well, because there's nice cool air coming into them. One big thing to watch out for though today is the wind. There is quite a strong wind today of around about, it's getting up to around about 20 to 25 kilometers per hour in a westerly direction, and that's going to cause issues for the cars going through turns 3 and 4. It's going to cause a lot of issues for the drivers, because they're going to start to get a little bit loose because of the tailwind, and there's also a crosswind there. As you go through turns 1 and 2, there's a little bit of a tailwind coming in there, but you're going to get quite a big crosswind coming through the second half of this D-shaped oval. So we're in for a good race tonight, I imagine. Now we're just coming to the end of practice. Currently Riley Curtis leads. He's managed to do 45 laps, I believe. So a good amount of laps for Riley. He's currently first with a time of 39.485. So a really good time for Riley Curtis there. And then Braden Boulis the second, Matt Danson third, Edward Foster fourth, Mirko Donchanak fifth, Chris Purnell in sixth, Aaron Dillon in seventh, Ben Doherty in eighth, Joshua Carroll-Walden ninth, and Norman Clark in 10th. So the cars, people are adapting to the cars, and we've got some different names up there tonight, and expect to see some different people tonight actually up in the top of the field. A couple of the drivers I was talking to earlier were saying that they're expecting it to be a little bit like Daytona. There's going to be a lot of drafting, a lot of side-by-side action, and this is going to cause, hopefully there won't be any crashes, but there may be some caution periods tonight, just because people are not quite used to these cars yet. So we're going to go into qualifying for tonight's race, so we'll see who comes out first. Now, a lot of people may wait for this qualifying session because they're going to want to see if the temperatures come up a little bit. They're going to see what happens to the track evolution. We've got Braden Boulis out first, so we'll jump to him and have a look and see how he's going. So Braden is quite a fast driver. He's one of the faster drivers out there, so we'll see how Braden goes. I might ask for a gyro cam for Braden Boulis so we can get a look around the track today from the car's view and see what it's like driving these new cars. So he's just coming towards the start-finish line. He's going to start his fast lap now. You can hear a little bit of the tyres screeching as he's coming through there, just a little bit of grip lost. Braden is going around about 290 kilometers per hour on this track. Amazing speeds these guys are reaching. So as you can see, the car is just very, very grippy, and he's not really having to do much correction. He's going to drop down below the line here as he crosses the start-finish line, and he's actually just lifted off a little bit. Just just lifted off on that lap. So we'll jump to somebody else. I think Joshua Carroll Walden is currently out there. He's just set a fast lap. Or he's just about to set his fast lap. He's just on his first lap out there. So we'll see how Joshua Carroll Walden goes tonight. Now, Joshua Carroll Walden has had a fantastic season so far. He's been there or thereabouts all year. And he often is. He's a very good driver, and he's always up in the top of that field. He's never sort of... You don't see him often sort of in the back of the pack. He's usually up towards the front, so I expect a very good qualifying lap from him. So as you see, he drops down to almost to the grass, across the painted line there, and he's going to carry on to see if he can get a second lap. Now, the second lap is probably going to be the fastest lap, but we'll see how they go. So Joshua's just lifting off through the corner there. I just heard a little bit of a lift there, just to get the car around the corner nice and easy. Dropping down to around about 270 kph, and now climbing back up the speeds, up to 290 through this corner. And I think he's aborting this lap, so yeah. Looks like he's aborted this lap. So we'll see who else is out there. We've actually got Riley Curtis out there at the moment as well, and Riley is was very fast in practice, so we'll see how he does in qualifying. Currently he set a lap that's put him third fastest with a 40.637. So we'll just see how Riley goes with the Blokes Advice Racing Riley Curtis design team there. So we'll see how he goes in car. He crosses the line and he improves up to second place. Great lap there by Riley. So a 40.25. So just a couple of tenths off of Joshua Carroll Walden's lap there. Fantastic lap by Joshua Carroll Walden on his first lap out. Really good stuff. We might just jump to the E53 car of Edward Foster, the title sponsor, of course. No, we don't have favouritism here, of course, but we have to say nice things about the title sponsor. So Edward's just posted his first lap. He's going to try for that second lap, see if he can get a much faster lap. He's currently sitting in 5th. Now Edward's usually fast, usually around about the sort of, I expect him, he usually is around about that 5th to 10th place area, most tracks, but he's always a solid driver and he's very consistent, and that's what almost won him the championship last year. So we see him coming around the last corner, he's dipping down, getting towards that grass, almost touching it, sets a time and manages to go a bit faster. He's got up to 4th place with a 40.302. So good luck there by Edward Foster as well. So we're now with Dan Stevens. So Daniel Stevens we've got. So we'll see how he goes. So he's just starting his first lap. So we'll see how this lap goes. We've got about 5 minutes of qualifying left, and there's a lot of the field that hasn't qualified yet. A lot of them are waiting to see if there's going to be a bit of a track change. So as we come into the turns 3 and 4 with Daniel Stevens, this is where the wind's going to possibly catch some people out. You've got to be a bit careful going through here, just because of that strong wind. He holds the car nice and well. He's dipping the car down a little bit, not going down on the lowest part of the line, and he has set a 40.403. So a good lap there by Daniel Stevens. So I believe he's still got one more lap to go, so we'll see if he can set a faster lap on this second lap. Now also with the standings, Phil Otto's managed to get his way up to 3rd place. Brilliant drive by Phil. And Dwayne Priest has just managed to get up to 5th place. So Dan Stevens now just coming back around those last couple of corners where you just got to be a bit careful because of that crosswind. We'll see how he goes. The car's looking nice and stuck to the track. Again, he's just keeping a little bit further up the track than most. Goes down, crosses across the line, and manages 4th place. Brilliant drive there from Daniel Stevens. Right, now we're with the 41 of James Robbie now, so we'll see how he goes. And he's currently just on his out lap, so we'll see how his fast laps go. Now he's going to keep a high line for this first lap to try and dip down and get a little bit more speed through that first corner. He seems to be favouring the high line a little bit more than most actually today. Let's see how this goes. Be interesting to see how well he goes with this lap. And we'll see if he does drop down a little bit closer to his second lap. As he comes through those last corners, the tail of the car just looks like it wants to get a little bit loose. He's dropped down a little bit close to the line this lap, so he's going to try his second lap and see if he can go a little bit faster. Meko Dortnak has managed to get up into 4th place, so great drive and a good job by Marco there. One of our sort of newer drivers to the Cup formula. Now we'll just check on the track temperatures while we're looking at James Robbie. And the track temperature has improved a little bit. The air temperature is still quite low, but the wind speed has dropped off a little bit, so that might help some people out. So James Robbie there with a fantastic lap manages to get up into 2nd place. Now I expect people are going to start setting some very fast laps now. The wind has dropped off, and this is going to cause cars to have a little bit more stability through turns 3 and 4, so they're going to be able to carry a little bit more speed. So we've got Matt Danson out there now in the vegan-friendly Rainbow Unicorn number 30. Let's see how Matt Danson does. Now, Matt's a very fast driver, so we're likely going to see a very good lap from him in the Corvette. Sorry, in the Chevrolet. So we'll see how this goes. He's coming through turns 3 and 4 now, and the car is looking much more stable than some of the earlier cars. Obviously, that crosswind has caused a little bit of just a little bit of trouble for some of the cars earlier on in this session. And Matt Danson gets up to 3rd place. Fantastic job. And Josh Micklemore has actually just got to 2nd, while Jason Martin has just taken 1st place. So fantastic job by all of them. Really, really good laps there. Very fast laps in the low 40s. Jason Martin actually almost getting into the 39s. Now we do have Jason Williams on track as well, and he's coming around to do his sort of first lap. So we'll see how Jason goes. Again, a very bright, colourful car there, and qualifying is actually finished. So we will run through the grid as we get ready to go. So in 1st place, we have Jason Martin. 2nd place, Jackson Callow. Jackson Callow there, fantastic job by him to manage to get into 2nd. 3rd place is Josh Micklemore, with Matt Danson in 4th. Joshua Carroll Walden manages to keep in 5th place, with James Robbie in 6th. Danny G is in 7th, with Riley Curtis in 8th. Phil Otto in 9th, and Marco Dortnak in 10th. Aaron Dillon is in 11th, with Daniel Stevens in 12th. Edward Foster down in 13th, with Dwayne Priest in 14th. Matthew Cluett in 15th, with Roger Clark in 16th. Norman Clark 17th, and Dave Douglas down in 18th place. Jason Williams is 19th, with Braden Boulis in 20th. Braden, of course, set the first sort of qualifying lap, and looks like the track evolution really did catch him out. And then we have Jake Maloney in 21st. 22nd is Michael Skurlock. Very low down for Michael Skurlock, with Chris Purnell in 23rd. And then Stephen Williams and Ben Doherty to round us out. So the cars are in the pit lane, ready to get going for the warm-up lap. So we will see how things go. for these new cars and this new generation of the Gen 7 cars for NASCAR. It's going to be an interesting race for everybody, I am sure. So the cars will soon be heading out for their formation lap and getting ready to go. And as we grid up, I'm going to talk about some interesting information about this track. Now, the Fontana, California Speedway, the Auto Club Speedway here, it's a track on an old steel mill owned by the Kaiser Steel Company. The interesting thing about that is the Kaiser Steel Company closed down in about 1980s. However, they did reopen for a Hollywood movie. On this very site is where the ending of Terminator 2 was filmed, in these steel mill sites. So they knocked it down and Roger Penske bought the land and turned it into this track, the Auto Club Speedway track. It's a 2-mile asphalt track, but yes, an interesting fact about this track, it is where Terminator 2 was filmed for the ending, something that I just discovered and I thought was quite interesting, and I thought I'd use while we were getting ready and nothing was happening. So the cars are out on track, getting ready to go for the start of this race. We have Jason Martin with Jackson Callow in second. Very fast guys, and it's not a surprise to see these people up at the top of the field. These are the fast drivers and they adapt very well to new changes in cars. It's all about adaptation in this sort of new era of these cars, and it looks like people are adapting quite well. So the pace car will come in very shortly. And we'll have Jason Martin leading the field. And away we go, the green flag will be out any second, and we are going, and the race has started. And away we go. A great start there for Jason Martin. He has pulled away nicely. Jackson Callow's just fighting with Josh Micklemore there. Micklemore's coming up. He's just coming up beside Jason Martin. Looks like Jason Martin's come up to the high side just to let his teammate through, possibly. Or the low line is working better than the high line. So we'll see how this goes. It looks like these two Mitch Motorsport cars are just trying to get line abreast to try and hold and sort of block the field. But Joshua Carroll is trying his best to stop that. The high line looks to be very slow, actually. The cars are really struggling on that high line. The low line is the line to go, it seems. With Joshua Carroll just pushing Josh Micklemore there. So we're going to see a lot of drafting. We're going to see a little bit of bump drafting in this race. Something we usually see at the big super speedways, but tonight we are going to see some of that action on this track. Jason Martin's had not a terrible start, but it's not what he would have wanted. He's fallen down to third place, and Danny G is all over the back of him. However, these two are teammates as well, so if Jason Martin and Danny G can get together, they can possibly push back up and get to the front and make it a Mitch Motorsport 1-2-3. It looks like every car has managed to get through safely. Doesn't seem to be any trouble out there, which is always a good thing. Just having a glance back down the track just to make sure everybody's okay. It looks like Braden Burler's had a very poor start. He's quite far off, or he started from pit lane, as well as Matt Danson. They're quite a way down from everybody else. So that's something. But everybody else seems to be fine. But the action is at the front with Joshua Carroll-Walden and Josh Micklemore having a good fight. Jason Martin is eager to get his place back with Jackson Callow on the outside of him. So through we go, and the cars are starting to line up. And again, as I say, the cars are going to have a big draft effect. You will notice this, the cars, as soon as they get behind another car, they're going to start closing up very quickly, and that's because of that new rear spoiler. It's just pulling the cars along and just making a big hole in the air. But Joshua Carroll-Walden is really working well on that outside line, it seems. Jason Martin's just gone on the inside of him. We'll see how that goes. There's a sort of two-pack formation now coming. We've got two cars pushing each other. We've got Josh Micklemore with Joshua Carroll-Walder pushing, and then we've got Jackson Callow with Jason Martin pushing each other there. Some great action by these guys, and Jason Martin has actually managed to get himself back into the lead for the moment, but it might not last too long. A car that is coming up the field at a great pace is actually Edward Foster. He's managed to make up quite a few places actually, about 6 places by my count. He's currently in 8th, so a really good start there by Foster. But we've got a really good fight here going on at the front of the pack. There's battles going on all the way down to around about sort of 12th place. We've got some really good battles, and then there's a second pack forming right at the back of this one. Very close racing here. Jason Martin has just got the lead, and Joshua Carroll-Walden is Jackson Callow is eager to get in front of him and try and pick up a bonus point for leading a lap of this race. And it looks like Jackson Callow might just get it. No, just missed out by millimetres. He's missed out there. Jason Martin managed to keep the lead of that lap. So some real close action here. And it does seem that the changes for the cars have brought us some very close racing. Edward Foster now is on the low line, and he's catching up to the leader. He's actually catching up quite quickly to Jackson Callow, sorry. So he's just on the inside of Josh Micklemore and Danny G at the moment. Joshua Carroll-Walden's fallen back a little bit to 6th place. Now, one of the interesting things for this race is going to see how the cars handle after a while on these tyres, because of course nobody really knows how these cars are going to go in this race. We know that they can run around about 40 laps before their fuel runs out, but we don't know how bad tyre wear is. Now, with a cool track like this, and the fact that there's not much wiggle room on this track, the tyres should hold out well. However, racing in a pack like this, they might start finding that the tyres are going off a little bit quickly, just because they're having to just struggle a little bit following a car behind them. And we've just got a few big battle behind the main pack actually, down with Dave Douglas and Aaron Dillon, I think it is. They're having a very big battle, and looks like Mirko Dirthnak has actually managed to get his way right back up into 11th place, and they're having a very good battle down sort of from 12th onwards. But focus is still on the leaders. They're trailing each other quite well at the moment. Edward Foster is just keeping Danny G on the outside there and just making sure he doesn't get that inside line, trying to keep him away from his teammates really, because if the three Mitch Motorsport cars get connected, they could actually pull away from this pack and could pull away and actually lead this race quite well. If it goes green, they could be the favourites. So again, as we come through turns 3 and 4, the cars are still looking very stable, which is a good thing. We don't want cars wiggling around too much, that's never a good sign. The wind speeds have actually started to get up again towards the southwest direction, so that's going to cause a little bit of wiggling in that turn 3 and 4 again. So we might see some people struggling for grip around there, or just getting caught out by that gust of wind. We'll see how that goes. But I've got to say, a fantastic drive by number 53 of Edward Foster, getting up to 3rd place now, making up 10 spots. Fantastic drive by him. His teammate Dave Douglas is also on the climb, making up 12 spots, currently in 6th place. Fantastic job by him as well. These guys are really pulling up the ranks quite quickly. Some of the big losers from this is actually James Robbie. He's fallen down to 14th place. He's lost 8 positions, and Matt Danson as well. He's down in 23rd. He's sort of nowhere at the moment. He's having a bit of a lonely race at the moment, just on his own, which is not sure what happened there for Matt. Maybe he had some issues or something. But we'll keep our eye on the front, and there is a great battle going on. Dave Douglas is really trying hard to keep the to keep Joshua Carroll Walden behind him, and trying to get his teammate Riley Curtis up behind him, and he has managed it. Riley Curtis is just pulling ahead of Carroll Walden. So we've got a great battle here with the teams of Mitch Motorsport and Blokes of Ice Racing. Some fantastic action here, and those two teams seem to be the teams that have actually sort of really worked out this track and worked out these new cars quite quickly, because they are very fast. So as we go, we're into lap 14 of 100, and we're looks like everybody's having a relatively clean race at the moment. It does look like there is some connection issues for a couple of drivers. I just saw a couple of drivers just pinging out a little bit, but hopefully they'll be okay. Danny G's on the move now. He's managed to get underneath Edward Foster, and he's going to try and get up close to his teammates of Josh Micklemore and Jason Martin, trying really start pushing each other to try and get away from this pack. It's very much like a super speedway at the moment in the way it's racing, very much pack racing. If you're on your own, you're going to lose out quite a lot. The new aero on these cars is obviously making a big impact for the way it works, and it looks like Edward Foster just got a nice little push there by Jackson Callow to just get him ahead of Danny G. So he's going to thank Callow. Oh, and Jackson Callow has had a big moment just going into the wall there. He's managed to keep it sort of on track, but looks like I think it was Dave Douglas had some major avoiding action there. Fantastic move by Dave Douglas there just to get out of the way there. He just dipped down below the line and managed to stop that from being a true accident. And as we speak, Edward Foster is trying to make a move for second place, and it looks like he's managed it. We've remained green. Jackson Carlo has managed to keep the car on track. He has got a bit of damage, quite a bit of damage to his right front side, so he is losing a bit of speed, and I do wonder how much it's going to affect him with this new aero package. Damage might be a big thing for this season. We'll see how that goes. But Edward Foster has managed to get up into second place now. Fantastic move by Foster, and he is trying to keep these Mitch Motorsport boys away from pulling from the pack. He's the only guy that's sort of with them at the moment. The rest of the cars have fallen back quite a bit with that just that moment with Jackson Callow. Dave Douglas is now leading the secondary pack. As I say, again, fantastic driving by Dave Douglas to avoid that crash. He really did move out the way, and all the boys around Jackson Callow actually did a fantastic job of avoiding that accident, because that could have been a big one, especially up at the top of the field. That could have wiped out a few cars. So great move there. The aforementioned Jackson Callow is down in 10th place. He is managing to hold on quite well, but it does look like he's not quite got the pace. Edward Foster here is just running up beside Jason Martin. He's just got the high line. Looks like Edward Foster's wanting to go for the lead, and he has got it currently. Let's see if he can manage to keep in front and actually manage to get a bonus point for lap led. We'll see if he does, and it looks like he will. So he's going to get that point for 1 lap led, and Edward Foster has led the lap, sorry, and he's keeping the Mitch Motorsport boys in check. Fantastic drive by him here. his teammates are slowly starting to climb up, with Riley Curtis and Dave Douglas now starting to form a bit of a train with Joshua Carroll-Walden on the back of it, and they're trying their best to push their way back up to the front of the field, who are just currently running away with it. Edward Foster there just slices down in front of Jason Martin and says, "No, you're not coming back in front of me. I'm taking the lead of this race. I'm going to lead for a while." One of the things as well that we don't know for these cars as well is how well they're going to run in a pack. We don't know how well the radiators are going to go. As I said, there is a big change to the actual radiator opening, so cars might be experiencing a little bit more heat than they're used to, or maybe just cooler than they're used to. It would be interesting to see how that goes. But that secondary pack led by Riley Curtis is catching up to the front of the field very quickly. You can really see how much speed you can gain if you get into a draft situation tonight. And Riley Curtis is showing that in great form, with Dave Douglas just behind him keeping Joshua Carroll-Walden in check. And we have Daniel Stevens in 8th place with Phil Otto down in 9th. Phil Otto actually having again a great drive. Phil Otto is qualifying in 9th and managing to stay there. So great drive by Phil Otto. Then we have Jackson Callow in 10th with Aaron Dillon following behind him in 11th. So the front is still battling, and it looks like Jason Martin wants to go back to the lead and get his lead back, getting a push by his teammate of Josh Micklemore. However, Mr. Edward Foster has got a bit of help coming in the form of Riley Curtis, just behind Danny G now. If Riley Curtis can get up there into the front of the pack, we might have the two teams battling it out and seeing who can push who. It's going to be an interesting battle as we go on. We're currently on lap 22, and we've managed to keep it green so far, which is always a good thing. And now, of course, I've done the curse of the commentator, and we're surely going to have a yellow flag. Edward Foster's still hanging on for the lead, just on the outside. Looks like Riley Curtis has just broken out from behind Danny G, and is just catching up to Edward Foster now, just going to try and get behind him. So we'll see if Josh Micklemore tries to get up on that high line and break up the two Blokes Advice Racing cars of Riley Curtis design. Everybody's looking relatively good at the moment. The cars are looking relatively sticky on the track. They're not looking like they're struggling on tyres or anything, which is a good sign. Getting some great racing out here tonight. And Edward Foster just pulling ahead of Jason Martin again, and just hoping that Riley Curtis can get behind him, really. He's really trying his best to climb up there and help his teammate Edward Foster. Really good racing here by the two, side by side, as they go through this 2-mile oval. And just as we're going through the corner, Jason Martin has just taken back the lead from Foster, and it looks like Foster's just going to slip in behind him. Now, leading the race is always a good thing. However, when you're leading, you're going to use more fuel. When you're behind another car in the draft, it means you can lift off a little bit. You don't have to accelerate just as much. If we just maybe go on board with Edward Foster, we'll be able to hear him just lifting off a little bit as he's following Jason Martin, and that's going to help him just save fuel a little bit as he goes around this track. And of course, fuel saving can be a big benefit, a big boon for you, because you can go out, you can stay out that extra lap, and you might get lucky and hit a caution, or you might be able to just pit at the right time so you can last a bit longer and finish the race. Of course, these cars can't stop and sort of manage the rest of the race. They can only really go about 40 to 45 laps with fuel. So nobody can do a single stop, of course, tonight. So they're all going to have to stop twice. But maybe if you can last that little bit longer, you can go for a splash and dash at the end and just catch a little bit more time as you're going through. So Edward Foster there sitting behind Jason Martin, fantastic job by him. And we'll just look down the field a little bit now, because Joshua Carroll-Walden is coming back with a vengeance. He's currently in 5th, just behind Dave Douglas and Riley Curtis. It looks like Danny's Danny G has dropped back right to 9th place. I'm not sure actually what happened to Danny G there, but Josh Micklemore as well is 7th. So those two cars seem to have just lost a lot of pace, or just had a moment somewhere and dropped right to the back of this train of cars. Behind them we have Phil Otto, who's leading. Sorry, we have Miko Danak, who's currently leading Jackson Callow and Aaron Dillon with their little train of cars, and then Roger Clark, James Robbie, Matthew Cluett, and Jason Williams is behind them. Matthew Cluett has just pulled a beautiful move on James Robbie, and as we go down the field, we've got Ben Doherty down in 17th place. Norman Clark has sort of lost the rest of the pack, unfortunately, down in 18th. Then we have Michael Skurlock, who's running in 19th place, which is a really odd place for him, as well as Chris Purnell. Michael Skurlock and Chris Purnell are really off the pace tonight, it seems. They're really struggling, along with Matt Danson and Braden Boulis. Two guys that I expected to be right up the front. But speaking of the front, we've got Riley Curtis pushing Edward Foster now, and Edward Foster has regained the lead. And Riley Curtis is going to try and keep behind him, so he can't try to stop Jason Martin slipping back in there, but he's just had to pull off a little bit and just get back in the formation with Dave Douglas behind him. So he's in a really good position at the moment. Those with Foster, Martin and Douglas all up in the top 5. They are in a really good position at the moment, but of course there are still a lot of laps to go. We're currently on lap 28, we're going to switch to 29 now. Really close racing by Foster. He is just rubbing panels with Jason Martin by the looks of it. They're so close to each other as they were going across the start-finish line. There would have been a cigarette paper between them. Really good racing by these boys. And Martin's going for another bite, and Edward Foster just cuts him off, but he seems to have lifted off as well because he didn't want to touch with Martin, and it has cost him quite dearly. He's fallen behind Martin now, and he's actually lost quite a lot of pace because he had to lift off there. But good situational awareness by both drivers not to have a crash, because it would have been very easy to touch then. And you can just see the calibre of racing drivers we have in this field tonight. Just being able to just lift off and not have that crash, turn in the right direction and not spin the cars. A brilliant effort by those two, and it's not really cost Edward Foster much because he's only dropped back to 3rd with his teammates behind him. So he's going to start getting a big push up the field again. As we speak about teammates, Danny G has dropped off completely. He's all the way down in 9th now, but Joshua Carroll-Walden is still in the fight for 5th place. Foster retakes the lead, and it looks like Riley Curtis is going to try and get in front of Martin as well. So we've got side-by-side racing all over the place here. Daniel Stevens just pulled a great move on Dave Douglas there. He's really battling hard down in 4th and 5th place. Beautiful manoeuvres by those two drivers. Josh Micklemore is still sitting there, just behind. Oh, and just as we speak, it looks like Daniel Stevens, I think. No, Josh Micklemore, actually. It was Josh Micklemore. He just had a touch off the barrier, I think. Oh, it was Daniel Stevens, sorry. Daniel Stevens, yeah, he just went a bit high and just touched the barrier. And the front of his car is a little bit crinkled now. He's really got a bit of damage on the front of his car, so that's not going to help him at all. But at the front, we have Riley Curtis Design, Blokes Advice Racing, 1-2 at the moment, but Jason Martin is furiously trying to stop it from happening. Yeah, it does look like Danson and Boulis maybe just hanging back, just holding sort of towards the rear of the end, just waiting to see if anybody has a crash tonight. They're sort of, looks like they're banking on somebody having a crash and getting a yellow, so they can maybe work their way up there. But being so far back at this stage of the race is not a great place to be, because they're starting to to fall into the grasp of these drivers at the front of the pack, and it won't be long until we start seeing some lapped cars coming into action. There's about half the track between them, I believe, at the moment, but they will start to catch up to them because they're not running in a pack and they are losing a lot of time. Both Danson and Boulos are setting times of relatively on pace, but they seem to be struggling, and Mirko Dirtnak has actually just pitted, so we've just got the first of our pitters coming into the pit lane. Not sure if it's a scheduled stop or a sort of stop for any incident, but his car looks very clean, so it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. So maybe he's just stopped for strategy wise. So Dirtnak has just stopped, but we've still got this massive battle at the front. Edward Foster has pulled away quite well from Riley Curtis now. We've got Foster, Curtis, Joshua Carroll-Walden, Dave Douglas, Josh Micklemore, and Jason Martin's dropped down to 6th place at the moment. So really topsy-turvy at the top of the field. There's just no telling who could win this race at the moment. I would not... If I was a betting man, I would not know who to bet on. So it's going to be interesting to see if Mirko Dirtnak has some extra pace now that he's stopped. I'll keep an eye on his times and see if he gets some... see if his pace sort of manages to increase a bit. Dave Douglas there just having a huge moment. He looks like he caught it in time, but it does look like he might have had a little bit of damage there. So we'll just have a look back at that and see what happened to poor Dave Douglas. So he has got quite a bit of damage to the front right of his car, so that's not going to help his race at all tonight. But we'll see how much this damage affects him. Hopefully it won't affect him too much, but that's gonna be one of the bullets gone from the Blokes Advice Racing team's chance for the end of this race. Okay, and as we go on, we've actually got Danny G getting up into 3rd place with Riley Curtis in the lead. So who knows what's going on really. Danny G looked like he had no pace at all, and then all of a sudden he's come right back up there. So I'm just going to keep an eye on Dirtnak, and also Jackson Callow as well. Looks like he's pitted too. So we'll just see what sort of times Dirtnak's going to be setting out there on fresh tyres, and see if there's much difference between fresh rubber and sort of aging rubber, because these tyres are now almost 40 laps old, and the drivers are going to have to start thinking about pitting soon for fuel, because they're going to start running a bit low on fuel, especially those drivers that have been leading the race. Foster and Martin, they might have to pit a bit earlier for fuel than everybody else because they've been in front for quite a bit of time. We'll see what happens there. But usually Jason Martin's quite good on fuel saving. Speaking of another person that's quite good on fuel saving, Matt Danson is climbing the field a little bit. He's in 18th place now with Chris Purnell in 17th place. So they are slowly climbing their way up there. But we have got quite a few people that have pitted. It does look like Danson's jumped into the pits as well. So a few people have started to sort of flick the dominoes and started the pit stop race, so we'll see how that goes. So for the time on new tyres, it does look like new tyres are the way to go. Mirko Dirtnak has set a time of 40.265, which is almost a second and a half faster than the leaders, so new tyres are definitely helping out a bit. But we'll see who flicks first and who comes in. As you can see there, I think that is actually Mirko Dirtnak just coming around the outside of everybody there and just pulling ahead of this lead pack. He has just flown past them and just got back onto the lead lap. Those new tyres are definitely paying off for him. He's really got some speed, so it'll be interesting to see where he where he comes out. And I think the drivers are going to definitely start thinking about pitting soon, but they've also got to start thinking about counting their way to the end of the race, because if we do run green for the rest of this race, they're going to need to pit another time for fuel. I don't think anybody can make it for fuel with more than 50 laps on fuel. Sorry, more than 45 laps on fuel. So we're going to see how that goes. Purnell's actually just in the pits as well, but none of the front runners have pitted just yet. They're all sort of sticking out there, but the pace is definitely with those people that pitted. They are just blisteringly fast out there at the moment. Michael Skurlock's actually just set the fastest time now of 40 point... sorry, Jason Williams has set one of the fastest times of a 40.028. So, very fast times by those guys down at the back, and those people that have pitted are really starting to make some time up. So I think people are going to start thinking about pitting very soon. And try for the undercut, of course. You might be able to make up a lot of positions if you pit earlier than everybody else. So we'll see if we get anybody from the front pitting earlier, and see if they try for the undercut on people. And yes, looks like Riley Curtis, Edward Foster, Danny G, Jason Martin, Dave Douglas, and Phil Otto have all come into the pit lane. What we'll do is we'll keep an eye on those guys and see how they go for their pit stop. See if they manage to stop on the mark and everything goes well for those guys. Fingers crossed they do. And Jason Martin's the last one to pull in nice and cleanly. And just have a look on the race of the pit lane now. So Foster's just finished his pit stop. Looks like Riley Curtis is out as well. So we'll see how these guys come up once the timing screens start popping up. But it looks like Riley Curtis had a great pit stop there and has pulled ahead a little bit. Foster as well has kept his place in second. We're going to see how much this is going to cost people like Josh Bicklemore, Joshua Carroll-Walden and Danny Stevens. Those are the guys, the only people to not pit yet, but they have come in as we speak. So it'll be interesting to see if this costs people like Josh Bicklemore a lot of places, because they were Josh Bicklemore and Joshua Carroll-Walden running quite high up earlier on, but with these pit stops it might really cost them. A guy to really look out for though is Mirko Dartnak, who is currently in the lead of this race. Blisteringly fast times for him. He has made a fantastic job. He is just miles ahead of the rest of the field. That pit stop earlier on has really paid off for him. But of course, the trouble for him now is the fact that he's on tyres that are going to be older than the rest of the field. He pitted around 4 or 5 laps ago, I think it was, and this is going to be an interesting segment. Just see how they go. So Dartnak's had 11 laps on these tyres now, while everybody else is on their first lap. So it will be interesting to see how much advantage he's going to lose because of those tyres, and see if they go off a little bit. But at the moment, he has managed to get a ridiculous lead on the rest of the field. He's currently 10 seconds ahead of Riley Curtis, so that stop really paid off well for him. So if we get a caution now, Dartnak has really played the cards well. Back in the fight, we have Riley Curtis fighting with Danny G, Edward Foster, Jason Martin, Jason Williams, Michael Skurlock. Michael Skurlock's one of those people that has made up so many positions with that late pit stop, as well as Ben Doherty. Big losers are Josh Bicklemore and Joshua Carroll-Walden down in 12th and 13th place. They've really lost a lot of positions. That sort of late pit stop has really cost them. So obviously the undercut is working tonight, and the drivers are going to keep this in mind. Of course, they're going to want to try and go as long as they can with green flag racing, but Michael Skurlock is just flying past Edward Foster there. He's on a bit of a longer stint, so the tyres aren't going off that much by the looks of things. It looks like the tyres are keeping themselves really well, because drivers that stopped a little bit earlier are really quite a bit faster still than the drivers that just stopped. So it might be a fact that people are struggling to get a bit of temperature in the tyres for the first couple of laps. That might be a part of the issue, because it is quite cold out there still. The track temperature is still quite low. Track temperature only being 21 degrees, the air temperature is still 18 degrees, but one of the things is the wind has dropped off, so that is interesting to see. We have lost a couple of drivers as well. Jackson Callow, Dwayne Priest and Jake Maloney have all dropped out of the race, unfortunately, and put the car behind the wall, but we will continue on with this race from the front, because there is some real good action going on here, some fantastic racing going on. And I must say, the changes they've made to these cars is obviously paying off quite well, because they have got some fantastic pace and there's some fantastic racing going on. Danny G is leading the pack currently, with Jason Martin just behind him. Edward Foster is still up there. But now Michael Skurlock and Ben Doherty into the fight as well. They've just pulled themselves up into this battle with that early pit stop. Fantastic job by those guys. Obviously they worked out that the tyres were the way to go, because Mako Dirtnak has really pulled out such a lead on these guys. He's still got 10 seconds on the rest of the field, which is just astonishing, really. These guys really need to start putting themselves into a position where they can start pushing each other, start pulling away and eating away at Dirtnak's lead, because it looks like Mako Dirtnak could just come away with this race with a win, as it stands, as we hit halfway on the race with lap 50. And we've got 3 wide down the back with Joshua Carroll-Walden, Ben Doherty and Jason Williams. Really fantastic job there. And it looks like Joshua Carroll-Walden has come out the winner in that little race. Joshua Carroll-Walden is climbing his way back up the field quite well, while Josh Micklemore is also there too. He's currently sitting in 10th place. Those guys are really starting to claw their way back up the field. It looks like their tyres have started coming into temperature and they're starting to get the good speed in there. These guys are on very different strategies now, with people like Danny G, Edward Foster and Jason Martin all having only 8 laps on this current stint, while people like Michael Skurlock are on 13 laps. You've got Ben Doherty on 11 laps and Mako Dirtnak with 18 laps on these tyres already. So it looks like the early pit stop is going to pay off, and if this race remains green, then pitting around about lap 70 is probably going to be the best option for these guys, because they're going to be able to use the undercut. But of course that does involve the race staying green, and that's something you can't bank on. We could have a race that remains green, we could have an accident, you never know. And it's a bit of a gamble when you do this kind of strategy. But if I was sitting down in sort of the mid-pack right now, I would start thinking about pitting in around about 10 to 20 laps, so we can make it to the end of the race, but you're going to make a big advantage on the rest of the field with that undercut. Of course, one of the things it will trigger is everybody else pitting. And Josh Micklemore, Jason Martin, Joshua Carroll-Walden again going 3 wide, and Joshua Carroll-Walden coming out the winner of it, it looks like. He's just behind Aaron Dillon. And Skurlock's starting to drop back. It looks like his pace is starting to waver a little bit, as well as Mako Dirtnak. He's losing quite a bit of time now. Danny G is gaining quite a bit of time on him. There's only 7.8 seconds between the two now. And it seems silly to say, 7.8 seconds does not sound like a lot of time, but it is a huge amount of time in motorsport. Motorsport terms, That is almost half a lap. It's crazy to think how fast these guys are going. Yeah, Mirko is dropping a second a lap slower. We've got Dave Douglas just he's falling down a lap, and he's just in front of the cars that are coming through, Danny G and people like that. I was just checking to see where he was, and he's really lost a lot of time. That damage to the front of his car has really hurt his race. Dirtnack, though, is trying his best to keep the car as fast as possible, but these guys are really reeling him in at a fast pace. Of course, Dirtnack is going to pit in around about... He'll have to pit in around about 20 laps anyway. So he's on for that strategy that I said that will work out well, pitting in around lap 70. He's on board for working out that strategy, while everybody else will pit probably around about possibly lap 75 to lap 80. Of course, they don't have to run the cars. They could even try and go a bit longer, but we've seen with the tyres there is a huge advantage. So trying to eke it out and trying to go for a splash and dash at the end is not going to work here, I don't think. You're going to have to try and get the tyres right. And we'll see if Mirko Dirtnack has managed to get that right, or if he hasn't. But he's still 7 seconds ahead of Danny G at the moment. Edward Foster sits there in 3rd place, with Riley Curtis still up there as well. So the Riley Curtis Design Blake's Advice Racing team have got 2 cars up in that sort of area still. However, the Mitch Motorsport guys have still got their 3 cars around there. Josh Mickelmore is 7th, with Jason Martin down in 9th place. But I don't expect them to stay there very long. I imagine they're going to start climbing their way up. It does look like Skurlock has started dropping off his pace quite a lot. And that's with only about 7 laps difference between the guys that stopped. 7 laps on these tyres makes a huge difference, and you can see that he's not quite got the pace of the guys around him. Dirtnack is being closed in on. He's now 6.4 seconds ahead of Danny G, but these guys are coming for him at a rapid pace. However, we'll soon see what Dirtnack's strategy is, because he could pit around about 5 to 10 laps and try and do the same as he's done this time, and he could eke out enough of a gap that he could win this race on the strategy alone. But I don't expect anyone else to fall for it this time. I expect people to start pitting a little bit earlier than they did last time. Now we've got Aaron Dillon starting to climb his way up, trying to get underneath Edward Foster, with Riley Curtis just behind him. So Riley Curtis and Aaron Dillon are having a good little battle, but Joshua Carroll Waldron is sitting there, and he's going to try and go 3 wide again, I imagine. Joshua Carroll Waldron is the man of going 3 wide tonight, it seems. And he seems to be doing it very well, because every time I've seen him going 3 wide, he's pulled it off and managed to get in the lead. But Riley Curtis and Aaron Dillon are having a great little battle there. Edward Foster is just coming down on the bottom of Danny G, and he has just got in front of Danny G there. Fantastic job by Foster. Really good move by him. And he is now in the lead of this pack, and he is starting to catch Dirtnack. He's going to do his best to catch up to Mirko Dirtnack and get past him. So we'll see how this goes, but Foster is in the in that 2nd place position and catching on Dirtnack around about half to quarter of a second a lap. There's not a huge difference between the pace, but it is coming there. These guys are starting to catch up. So, currently, Dirtnack leads with 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, with Edward Foster second, Danny G in third, Riley Curtis fourth, Joshua Carroll in fifth, Josh Micklemore in sixth, Aaron Dillon seventh, Jason Martin eighth, ninth is Phil Otto. Phil Otto is just doing a sterling job at the moment. He's not really doing anything super special, but he has remained in ninth place all race while everybody else is just chopping and changing positions. He just seems to be stuck in that ninth place spot, and Matty Fleur is just behind him in 10th place. But the battle still goes on. Riley Curtis is just catching up to Foster now, while Joshua Carroll Walden tries to get in behind Curtis. So these guys are really battling hard, and it's great to see tonight. There is some fantastic racing going on. And I hope the audience is enjoying this, because this is a fantastic race to watch. Calling it is just a pleasure, in fact. So Dirtnack is being closed in on now. He's starting to lose that time, and he will see the rest of the pack in his rear view mirrors now. They are really getting close to him, and if they start racing clever, which it looks like Foster and Riley are, they're going to catch up to him very quickly. Now what we're going to see here is how much damage have they done to their tyres with all this racing. Of course, when you're chopping and changing position, you're moving your tyres left and right, and you're causing them a bit more damage. They're starting to lose grip, basically. You lose your tyres quicker when you're fighting for positions. Now, Dirtnack out there in clean air has just been setting good lap times after good lap times. He's only 0.3 of a second slower than the cars behind him, in fact, and he's just metronomically just going for those laps and just keeping it up and managing those laps. But because he's not been fighting, his tyres are going to last that little bit longer, so he might just try and go a little bit longer and see what he can do. But I do expect to see some cars pitting relatively soon, because they'll be able to stop now and go to the end. Of course, everybody is banking on that caution, but it may not come, and that will be an interesting thing to see. If that caution comes, then it could change the whole of the field. Another great thing is just all the different names up at the front. It's great to see Dirtnack up in the lead there. Somebody else who's just sort of... Dirtnack is new to the series, and he's doing a fantastic job, in fact. And he's still holding on to that lead very well as Foster tries to catch him. Now, if my calculations are correct, I reckon Dirtnack's going to pit in the next 3 to 5 laps. I expect to see him in before lap 70. And it's going to cause the rest of the drivers to pit as well, because they can't let him pit and get that advantage. Everybody's going to have to pit at the same time. The trouble with Dirtnack's position now, because he is so far ahead, he can't feint a pit stop. He can't sort of pit without the other people knowing. Everybody's going to be able to see him going into pit lane and manage to make that pit stop as well with him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And Dirtnack is coming into the pit lane now. He's coming into the pit lane now. So let's see what everybody else does. Everybody else is staying out at the moment. But is that a mistake? We'll soon see. It looks like everybody else has stayed out on those tyres. Although there is... Skurlock has pitted as well. So Skurlock and Dirtnack have both pitted, and they can go to the end of the race now. Of course, the issue is going to be, coming towards the end of the race, you are going to start losing time. But the longer these guys stay out there, and the longer those guys go out there and set fast times, it's going to mean a bigger gap they have. If they get a caution, it's going to start causing problems. And it looks like the leaders are coming in now. Foster is just at the last moment coming into the lane, and he's hit. And Foster has made a huge mistake and spun it going into the pit lane. A huge mistake there by Edward Foster, and he's going to be kicking himself there. He's probably picked up a penalty as well. Absolute disaster for Foster. Riley Curtis is pitted with Danny G. Who else have we got in the pit lane at the moment? We've got Danny G, Aaron Dillon, Ben Doherty, Stephen Williams have all jumped into the pit lane. And an absolute nightmare there for Foster. He's just going to be so upset with that because he's been running so well all night. And a silly mistake like that can cost you the race. A real shame there. Now, the person to look for is now Marco Dertenac, to see where he comes in front of these guys. And it looks like he has maintained that lead, of course, and he's done well for it. The other guy to look for is, of course, Michael Skurlock, and see where he comes from this latest bout of pit stops. But it doesn't look like it's worked out quite as well for him. It looks like he's still quite far down there. So Riley Curtis and Jason Williams have managed to get out with each other. Everybody's going to be starting to look for pit stops now. It's going to be interesting to see how long it is until Micklemore, Cluett and Phil Otto stop. Micklemore's coming into the pit lane now. Otto has stayed out on the track as well as Cluett. And looks like Micklemore is pitted. Phil Otto has pitted, sorry. Matt Danson is out on the track still. Matt Danson's picked up a position, but he's still on the old tyres. He is on a 29 lap stint at the moment. And Roger Clark as well is up there, but he's on that old stint as well. So Josh Micklemore is in the pits as we speak. He's getting his service done. It looks like the cars are going to start coming around soon, and here comes Marco Dertenac, and he is just going to have such a lead over Joshua Micklemore. It's going to be a big moment, and you can see him passing. Micklemore is just so far ahead of Joshua Micklemore there. A real great move by Dertenac to make that stop earlier in the race. He has really made it paid off. Person that's really dropped down and has not worked at all is Edward Foster. He is just leaving the pit lane now. It looks like he picked up a big penalty for his error, and he is just leaving the pits as we speak, and down there in last position, just behind Dave Douglas. So a nightmare for the Blokes Advice Racing team. We've got a massive gaggle of cars. I'm just trying to work out who's actually in this pack of cars. Joshua Micklemore, Riley Curtis, Jason Martin. There is a huge battle going on the track at the moment between these guys. Fantastic racing. Daniel Stevens there just getting caught a little bit on the outside of the track. And they are just doing a fantastic... Yes, and there is a lot of different cars in this middle pack. There are cars on fresh tyres, there are cars on old tyres, there are cars lapped down, there are cars waiting to pit. It is just an absolute muddle of cars at the moment, and we don't know where everybody is. Matt Danson is currently in the lead, but he is dropping his time relatively quickly. It does look like Matt Danson's actually possibly stopped. The Oh, there we go. Yes, sorry. I forgot to scroll up on my screen. Yes, so Matt Danson still needs to pit. He's on a 32-lap stop, as well as Brendan Boulis and James Robbie. They're all out there currently, but they have they don't have a huge advantage over the guys behind them. They're going to start losing time, and this is the problem. They're banking on a caution now. If a caution comes out now, they're in the money. But they've got to basically stay out as long as they can and hope for a caution. Otherwise, they're not going to do anything in this race. So a nightmare sort of scenario for them. But if a caution comes out, they could be sitting pretty. Marco Dertenac, though, has just got such a big lead over the rest of the cars. Micklemore, Dillon, Riley Curtis, Ben Doherty are all quite a bit behind. Dertenac, and just going to have a quick look just to get the time up for his distance, if I can get my times up. So Dertenac's got 6 seconds over Micklemore. Fantastic job by him. Really good racing by Dertenac. He's not raced hard, but he's raced smart. And that's the thing sometimes, is racing with your brain is one of those things that you can do. And some of the best drivers in the world do that. It's pitting at the right moment, working out how good the tyres are, and he really did work out how good those tyres are. So he's really taking advantage of that. But this pack is going to catch him. They're all on the same tyres though, so it's not going to be a huge deal for Mirko. But this pack will eventually catch him. They are slightly faster because they are currently in pack racing. We've still got James Robbie out on the track with Braden Boulos and Matt Danson. Now, Braden Boulos has actually made 2 pit stops so far tonight. So he's doing well to be sitting up in where he is, but he's just banking on a caution now. Everybody's just banking on that caution, because if the caution comes out, then they're going to go well. If the caution doesn't, they're going to drop very far back, right sort of towards the back of the pack, in that sort of area. So we're going to have to really wait and see what happens with these pit stops. Now, Matt Danson's on a 36 lap stint, so he's only going to manage to go at least another 10 laps. And that's not enough to finish his race. He needs to make another stop. The same for everybody else. Nobody can make it to the end that's currently in the top 3. However, everybody from 4th down could make it to the end of this race without stopping again. Of course, if a caution flag comes out, they're all going to stop for fresh tyres, because fresh tyres are the way to go, and it's going to give you a big advantage of speed. I might say a couple of people gamble, but fresh tyres are the way to go. But touch wood, we hopefully won't see a caution tonight, because this has been some epic green flag racing, a really great show being put on by these guys, especially by the guys in the sort of packs that are formed, like Aaron Dillon and Ben Doherty. They are just doing fantastic jobs. Danny G, Joshua Carroll Walden as well. He's dropped off to 13th position at the moment, but I'm sure he's going to start clawing his way back up. Skurlock has actually done a fantastic job to climb his way up to 12th place. Skurlock has made 10 positions, Jason Williams made 8 positions, but the biggest sort of winner at the moment, discounting Braden Boulos because he needs to stop, is Ben Doherty, who's made 18 positions from the start of the race. Ben Doherty is one of those drivers that I really think he's gonna get a race win this season. I just feel it. He's gonna get one of those race wins this season, because he deserves it for one. He is doing a fantastic job, and he's driven so well all year. He drove so well at the end of last year's season as well. Ben Doherty is somebody to watch for. He is a rising star of the ANZCAR series. But just behind him, we've got Riley Curtis and Danny G, with Jason Martin behind him. A really good pack forming, and they're going to try to go through wide, but nope, they've just been cut off. They're not going to manage it. And this pack is really starting to have good battles, but this is allowing Josh Mickelmore just to pull away from them, just starting to get his distance. And he's starting to slowly catch Mirko Dirtnak, but very slowly. He's not catching at a great pace. At the pace he's sort of going, he's not really at a pace that's going to threaten Dirtnak for a while. James Robbie has blinked and is pitting. So James Robbie is in the pits now, and he's going to lose quite a lot of positions. We've still got Braden Boulos out there and Matt Danson on there, hoping for a caution flag to be thrown. But behind them, we've got this fantastic battle going on for 5th place between Doherty, Dillon, Brylowski and Curtis. And also Martin as well. Just really good racing from all of these guys. We've seen some such close racing tonight. It is fantastic to see. And really enjoyable to call as well. I must admit, it's been a pleasure to call this race. Even though I am alone tonight, it would be nice to have a second commentator, but it is an absolute pleasure to be calling this race, at least, because it is a really exciting one. Now, down towards the back of the field, Dave Douglas has managed to claw his way up past Daniel Stevens, but he's still sort of sitting quite far back. And of course, poor Edward Foster is 3 laps down, right at the back of the pack. Really big shame for him. He was running so well, looking to be looking to be the guy that was going to claim the first win in these new cars, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Brian Boulos has pitted, so all we've got out there is Matt Danson now. So Matt Danson is going to be praying for a yellow flag in the next couple of laps, because he's not going to make it much further on this stint. He's only going to manage around about 3 laps maximum. I can't see him managing more than that. So I imagine we're going to see Matt Danson come in for a quick splash and dash and get those new tyres on in the next lap or two. But behind him is Dirtnack and Micklemore. And Micklemore is actually catching on Dirtnack. It's not a great speed difference, but there is a bit of catching going on between the two. They're really fighting quite well, these two. Definitely one to watch, because at the end of this race we might have a very close moment where Dirtnack and Micklemore are racing for the win, and it'll be interesting to see who gets that victory. And of course, whoever gets the victory tonight gets to claim the victory of these new cars, and everybody wants to do that because, of course, it's bragging rights. And drivers like... And Matt Danson is coming into the pits right now. He couldn't last any longer, and he is unfortunately going to drop down quite a lot of positions. So Dirtnack has taken the lead now. His strategy has paid off incredibly well. So Mirko Dirtnack, a guy that started towards the sort of middle of the pack, has done a fantastic job with that early pit stop. A pit stop that let him climb up the field, set those really fast lap times, and gain the positions. Dirtnack at one stage was running towards the back of the field, and he's managed to pull himself up to the front. And this just shows how a well-timed pit stop on a green flag race can change the outcome. Now behind him we've got Ben Doherty and Josh Micklemore starting to have a fight. With a lapped car just between them. Ben Doherty just behind him, and Danny G is just catching on Ben Doherty now. And of course Danny G is going to want to get just ahead of Doherty to just start pushing Micklemore a little bit to help him try and catch Dirtnack. And you can see just Ben Doherty has just got Riley Curtis just under his rear spoiler, just pushing him forwards a little bit, trying to keep him ahead of Danny G. There's only 4.7 seconds between Micklemore and Dirtnack for the win. Very close matched race for these guys, and it's going to be interesting to see if Dirtnack can manage to keep out there. Now, the interesting thing here is Josh Micklemore stopped a little bit later than everybody else. He's only on a 16-lap stint, whereas Mirko Dirtnack is on a 19-lap stint. 20 laps now. And so there's about 4 laps between these guys, and that can help a bit. Micklemore's on slightly fresher tyres, so he's going to be a little bit quicker than Dirtnack towards the end of this race still. And in the timing, it does show. The last lap, Dirtnack was a 41.277, while Josh Micklemore was a 41.266. So there's really nothing in it, but he is faster, but not fast enough. He needs to be faster than this to catch up to Dirtnack to get the win, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it unless a caution comes out. If a caution comes out, it's going to change the whole complexity of this race. Hopefully we don't see one. We still got some great racing going on through the field though. Matthew Clowett is having a really good race with Phil Otto in 9th place. Phil Otto is still holding on to his 9th place like a sloth holding onto a tree. He is really not giving up that position. He wants to stay there as much as he can. A fantastic drive by Phil Otto though. He's really shown consistency there, just managing to, maybe not the fastest guy, but he's holding his pace and he's holding his place, which is a really important thing to do. But he has got Matthew Clewett behind him on fresher tyres, really trying his best to get in front of him. And just in front of Otto is Joshua Carroll-Walden. Again, a guy that's going to really try to get up the field. He really wants to get higher up in this race. Now, Danny G is just got with Josh Micklemore now. So we're going to probably see these two teammates starting working together to try and catch up to Dirtenack for the end of this race, to try and catch up and see if they can get past him. There's still 4.7 seconds in it though, so it's going to be a tough call to make it. But Josh Micklemore has actually just dropped back quite a bit. Ben Doherty and Riley Curtis have managed to get ahead of him as well. So Riley Curtis is having a fantastic race tonight as well. Really good job by Riley. And of course Josh Micklemore and Ben Doherty too. But Curtis has really been fighting hard, and all of these guys have made up a lot of positions from the beginning of the race. The biggest star for me is definitely Ben Doherty, who's made up 19 positions from the start of this race. He's really driven hard. He didn't have the best qualifying session, but he has had a fantastic race. But I must say, as long as there's no cautions or no issues, it looks like Dirtenack's going to manage to get this race win. And I imagine the poor guy's not had too much time on the TV, so we'll just take a moment to just jump on board with Dirtenack and see how it's going for him just on the gyro cam. And we'll just enjoy the sound and watch him going for a couple of laps of this circuit. So brilliant to see there, just a lap of this track with Dirtenack, and you can just see him just lifting off through the corners slightly, and this is just going to help save fuel, just conserve the tyres a bit. He doesn't need to push too hard around those corners, which is a really good thing. He's still got 4 seconds in the bag from Danny G behind him, so we'll just go back to the normal battles and see what's going on there, because we've still got a heck of a battle going on between Daniel Grozowski, Riley Curtis, Josh Micklemore, Jason Martin, Ben Doherty, Aaron Dillon, and yeah, these guys are really still battling. Aaron Dillon has just dropped off a little bit, but the rest of these guys are fighting tooth and nail for it. They're really going for second place, seeing who can get that second place position. We've only got 6 laps to go of this race. It seems like it's only just started. This race has flown by. Fantastic job by all the drivers as well to keep it clean this race. You may have heard us at the start of the race expecting a couple of smashes. Everybody was expecting somebody to have a bit of a problem, but nobody seems to have had it. It seems everybody has just driven a perfect race and not had any incidents. Touch some wood and make sure nobody does. But some great racing going on here, and you can see Riley Curtis is just about to make a move on Danny G. He's just looking up on the high side, thinking about it, but just not going for it because he knows he's going to lose a bit of time doing that. So he's just trying his best to make Danny G just lose concentration a little bit, doing his best to sort of make him think that Riley's going to go the high side and maybe jump down to the inside of him. Just playing those mind games as drivers do, and that's one of the things you have to do when you're driving these cars. And at this stage of a race you're absolutely exhausted as well, and it looks like Riley Curtis is just trying for that inside line but doesn't have enough speed. But behind him Josh Micklemore has just got a huge amount of speed and just got past Riley Curtis. Fantastic move there by Josh Micklemore. Really good racing. Curtis is still holding on, trying his best to keep on the outside there. But the Mitch Motorsport guys are really trying their best to to get up there and be the best of the rest behind Dirtnack. We're going to see who can do this. And it's been a tremendous race for Mirko Dirtnack. He's just driven this race perfectly, had the perfect strategy. His call earlier on in the race to pit earlier than everybody else must have had people thinking, what's going on here? But he knew what he was doing. He made a fantastic job there, and it's great to see. He's just really flown in here, and Dirtnack is one of our newer drivers as well, and just having him just...
Alright man, caution is out, caution is out.
We've got a caution flag. We have actually got a caution. That is a real shame. We were having a tremendous race before that, but it looks like we've got a caution. I'm not sure what's happened. I'm just going to try and flick through, and I'm sure we'll... Looks like maybe... looks like Ben Doherty had a bit of an issue. Ben Doherty's got quite a lot of damage to the front of his car, which is a real shame because Ben was a really good driver, having a good drive this evening. We'll try and get a replay of that if possible, but I don't know if we will. But this has pretty much handed the race to Mirko Dirtnack. A tremendous race for him. He's just done a fantastic job. And with 2 laps to go, he can just relax now because we're not going to go green from here. So effectively the race is finished. A real shame to go yellow at the end of that. A real shame because we almost had the perfect race there of full green laps. But with only 2 laps to go of this 100 lap race, Mirko Dirtnack has managed to pull himself up and get his first win in the ANZCAR Cup Series. What a fantastic job by him. Just looking through the standings, Mirko Dirtnack is currently in 14th place, and he's going to jump his way up the field with this win. A really good job. Danny G getting 2nd place, great job for him. Riley Curtis in 3rd, a tremendous job for Riley Curtis actually. He's had a really good race. Looking at the drivers that have made up positions, you know, Mirko Dirtnack made 9 positions, Danny G 5, Riley Curtis 5, and looks like maybe Phil also might have been involved. Joshua Carroll Walden has dropped down quite a lot as well, Ben Doherty too. So it looks like a few people may have got involved in a bit of an incident towards the end, which is a real shame. But for the rest of the drivers, a fantastic job. Just looking through the field at the moment, we have Jason Martin in 4th with Josh Mickelmore in... Sorry, Josh Mickelmore 4th, Jason Martin 5th, Aaron Dillon 6th, Matthew Cloyett 7th. Skurlock has managed to get up to 8th place with Chris Purnell possibly, and Matt Danson is up there as well. Sorry, my timing screen's jumping all over the place at the moment, because we've got cars just flipping around. But we'll wait for the race to actually be finished until we can actually work out who's where and what's going on. I'm not sure if Matt Danson is a bit confused, thinking he may be getting a lap back or something, because he's jumped up into 1st place just ahead of the pace car. Mirko Dirtnack is 2nd. The timing board's just scrambling a little bit there, so not sure exactly what's happened. We'll see what's going on there once it's all finished, but Mirko Dirtnack's going to come across the line behind the pace car in 1st place with his first victory in the ANZCAR E53 Cup Series. What a fantastic drive by Mirko Dirtnack. Fantastic call for him with the strategy, and just a fantastic win overall. Congratulations, Mirko. What a brilliant job you've done there. So we'll just wait for the official boards to just update themselves and just get things going. So it looks like we have Mirko Dertnak first, Daniel Grozatski in second, with Riley Curtis for third, Josh Micklemore in fourth, Jason Martin in fifth, Aaron Dill in sixth, Matthew Cluett in seventh, Michael Skurlock in eighth, making up 14 positions, along with Chris Purnell making up 14 positions. Great job by those two. Roger Clark finishes in 10th place. Matt Danson down in 11th place, Joshua Carroll in 12th, Phil Otto lost his 9th place, is now his 13th place, Jason Williams in 14th, Norman Clark 15th, Stephen Williams in 16th position, James Robbie 17th, Braden Boulis in the 18th position, Daniel Stevens 19th, Dave Douglas in 20th, Edward Foster in 21st, and then Ben Doherty, Jackson Callow, Dwayne Priest and Jake Maloney. Ben Doherty is the last of the sort of finishers, but it looks like he's put the car just behind the wall. A real shame for Dave Douglas and Edward Foster, in all honesty, because they had a really good drive this race, but unfortunate circumstances for both of them. But congratulations goes to Mirko Dertnak for this fantastic win. What a really great job for him, and he gets to claim the victory and the honours of being the first winner in this car. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab, looks like Danny G, I'm going to grab Daniel Grozowski in to have a chat, our second place finisher. Fantastic job by Danny G tonight. Let's go and grab him and see how he's going. Danny G, Carl Withy here from Performance E Streaming. How are you going?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks fellas. How are you guys going?
Not too bad. A bit of a long race there. My voice box is a little bit worn out, but a brilliant race all race long. There was some fantastic driving going on, yourself included there. How was the race for you?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, I managed to stay in the top 10, I think, top 5 most of the day. Sort of fell back there in the back end of the top 10 there for a while, just sort of saving tyres, getting them cool. And I was just, once you're able to do that, you're sort of able to sort of move back through the field. But, I mean, you had to sort of wait for runs and sort of time cars and set up passes and had to sort of learn all that on the fly. And there towards the end, I think Riley and I got together a couple of times and I thought we were going to both end up in the wall. I'd like to apologise to him for blocking a bit too much, but it's just what you sort of had to do to get the finish.
Yes, but it looked very clean from our position, in all honesty. It was a race of strategy by the looks of it at the end there with Mirko. He really just pulled a rabbit out of the hat there with that win by pitting early. Did you guys sort of think that the tyre degradation was not going to be as bad as it actually was?
No, I knew it would slow up. Actually, when he did pit, I thought this is a good idea by him because if it goes green all the way, because we were like backing out of the corners pretty hard at that stage. There was even a couple of times I had to pump the brakes, so I knew he was just going to go around by himself in clean air to the floor and lose a little bit of time, but sort of make it all up with those fresh tyres, and it just worked out perfectly for him. So congratulations.
Yeah, a brilliant job. You and yourself, a great job for your team as well, because your team finished in the top 5, everybody in the top 5. You had Josh Micklemore and Jason Martin in 4th and 5th as well. Obviously a lot of teamwork involved there. At the start, in the early stages of the race, we were watching you with Blake's Advice from Riley Curtis Racing. Do you think this season teamwork is going to be a more important thing with these cars?
Yeah, I do, because when I was racing there, with Edward and Riley, I sort of, to me it felt like they were trying to lead me to go to certain places on the racetrack so they could sort of pin me out or sort of drive back around me. So it was a lot of strategy, trying to split teammates in half. Towards the end there, I was just trying to tell my teammates just try and slow him down for me so he can't get a run on me. So yeah, I do think that's going to play a big part.
Good to hear. So just before you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out for tonight and thank?
Yeah, just Josh and Jace. Mitch Motorsport's been awesome. It's finally good to actually get a result for once. I had a pretty rough start to the season, but very happy with that. So I'd just like to thank them, and of course you guys. and everyone out there tonight for putting on a great race.
Thank you so much, Danny. We will see you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. See you.
Danny G there from Mitch Motorsport, and it looks like Mirko Dirtnak has jumped into the green room, so I'm going to grab him up and have a chat to him. Mirko Dirtnak, Carl Withy here from Performance E Streaming. How are you going?
Fantastic, mate. Yourself?
Very good. Congratulations on an amazing victory.
Thank you, sir.
Now, obviously that race was won for you with strategy. What made you decide to go onto that strategy?
Oh, well, I mean, it was just a nice, even way to break up the race. 33 laps. It was a 100-lap race, so we needed to do 2 stops, so I just broke it up into thirds, really. And just hoped that we weren't going to get a yellow.
Yeah, well, we did get a yellow, but it came at exactly the right stage for you, obviously. It was a clean race for everybody out there, really. Did you have any moments out there tonight?
Not really, no. It was good racing from everyone around me, and then, yeah, after my pit stop, I was pretty much by myself, so just had to stick to my line and hit my marks, really.
Yes, we were keeping an eye on you after that pit stop and watching the times, because you were setting some blisteringly fast laps out there on your lonesome. It did look a little bit lonely for a long time out there, obviously.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's good being lonely out there when you're first, not so much when you're last, but you know.
Absolutely. Okay, Mirko. Anyone you'd like to thank tonight? Give a shout out for.
Yeah, all the boys at Illusion Motorsports and Old School Graphics and Designs, and yourselves there at Performance E Streaming, and of course ANZCAR for putting on the league. Everybody in ANZCAR, really, everybody that races. So,
Thank you so much, and congratulations. And I'm glad to finally see you in the green room and actually get to have a chat to you and give you congratulations, because you've been quite fast all season, and I expect to see you up there again at some time in the season.
Yeah, cheers, Carl.
Thanks, Mirko. Have a great night.
Will do.
Mirko Dirtnak there for Illusion Motorsport. So we've got time for one more driver. Just looking through the field. I might grab Riley Curtis, actually. So we'll just grab Riley Curtis. Riley Curtis, Carl Withy here from Performance E Streaming. How are you going?
I'm pretty bloody happy after that.
A great result for you. A really good race at the end of the day for you guys. It looked like it was very fun out there.
Yeah, this new rule package, you can actually get in and race as opposed to just sit back and tyre save like the old one. You know, we went 98 laps green and we were close besides Mirko, who played his strategy well and buggered off up the...
Yeah, he had a fantastic strategy call there. Earlier on in the race, I was just talking to Danny G about it. It was very much team versus team. Your own team, of course, against Mitch Motorsport. With this new rule package, do you expect to see teams making a big difference?
To a degree. I think at the start there, I don't know, we just wanted to get up there and mix it with them. You know, you could see that they were playing 3 in the team, so we were like, yep, let's have a go. Depending on tracks, I think it will. This one being quite open, you could block a lot down the straight, so it made a difference, but others it might.
Yes, the track seemed to favour the cars quite well. It'll be interesting to see the cars on a sort of track that requires a little bit more braking, a little bit more downforce. Did you really notice the downforce difference on these new cars?
I usually hate this track, and then they went to the new rule setup, and you can definitely drive them a lot harder. Feels like you actually have to get in and drive it, as I said earlier, not saving tyres, so it was...
That is great to hear, and it's good to see as well, because there was some fantastic racing, and it looks like as well that a lot of people had a few little moments out there and were able to save the cars as well. Did you find it was a bit easier to keep the car if you had a little bit of a wobble?
Much easier. Like, I noticed at one point towards the end I got into the back of Danny G when he just went to go to the outside of Josh and put a bit of a block on, and I think in the past we would have ended up wrecking down the front straight, but we both drove out of it. had a good.
Well, it's good to hear, it's good to see, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. Thank you so much, Riley. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out for tonight?
Well, shout out to Blokes Advice. They do great work with men's health. We've got RCD myself, E53 YouTube channel, check it out. We've also got EMR Industries on the cars. They've got some great sim products, and K&N Phil.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Riley Curtis, and I'm sure we'll see you again in the broadcast booth sometime in the future.
Yeah, hopefully it's back up here for a win. But cheers for putting the broadcast on, boys. It was great.
We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Okay, well, that is the end of the race for the cars with the new package, and I've actually got the standings updated for this race by the looks of things. Everything's updated itself, so I'll just run through the championship standings as they are after this race. So we have Josh Micklemore in first place with 170, with Michael Skerlock in second with 158, Jason Martin in third with 154, Chris Purnell in fourth with 146, Joshua Carroll-Walden with 144 points, Matthew Cluett with 141, Dave Douglas with 139, Mirko Dortnak has climbed his way up 6 places and is now in 8th place with 136. Edward Foster is in 9th place, dropping 2 places. Riley Curtis in 10th place. And little shout out for Danny G, just in 11th place, climbing 7 places up the leaderboard. Fantastic job for him. With that, we will be coming to a close for the stream and the race. So I'd like to give a big thank you to everybody. Thank you to E53 for the sponsorship, of course. Thank you to ANZCAR for running the race. And a big thank you to all the drivers who participated. And, of course, for everyone that viewed. Have a lovely night, and we will see you all next race. Bye-bye.